Silicon Valley, technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Hi, welcome to Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability. Today I have two guests with me that are amazing artists, and they're working with sustainability and green in the materials. I have Katrina I and Dominic, and I'm going to murder the name here, Boinich?
Boinich, yeah.
Boinich. Okay, see, I did get a little wrong there. They both have been artists in the field for quite a while, and now they've joined forces, and you guys have 5 Feet for the Moon, which is an amazing name. Everybody I tell that name to is like, oh, that's a great name. So welcome. And Katrina, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little background?
I was born and raised in New York. Was always interested in the arts. I started interior architecture and then realized that I really wanted to make things with my hands. So I totally switched gears, moved out west, went to Oregon College of Art and Craft, and studied jewelry and metalsmithing design there. And after that, I continued having a studio and creating art and got into welding. And now we have a awesome shop on the west side of Santa Cruz.
And I've been a big fan of your work for a long time.
Thanks.
And Dominic. So what's a little bit of your background on art?
From an art background, or did you want to talk a little bit about the fishing in Alaska as well?
Oh, we'll talk about that too.
Or
how did you get started in the art? Did you go to school for it?
Well, no, I think that the art thing, I think that everyone's got a little bit of an artistic, creative bug that you want to get out on something, and hopefully everyone does at some point. I didn't know. I think that, honestly, I went to Burning Man about 10 years ago, and that was part of my inspiration. I didn't go directly seeking out just doing metalwork after that, but I think just positive, thinking about it and having that seed planted, kind of things fell in my path that, you follow your signs. I would say Bill Gould was one of my biggest help in doing that. I was a construction superintendent, and I was remodeling a school in San Jose, and Bill Gould was the architect on the job.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you have a construction background.
Yeah, that's where it all started. So I'd done that for a couple years, and I definitely knew that construction superintendent was not something that I was going to continue doing. It's very stressful and not enough rewards, but I met Bill, and he knew that he had this amazing metal shop, and he's got an architecture firm and then a 3,000 square foot metal shop in the same building. First time I went over there for a meeting, they took me in the back, and I was like, oh my God, this is for me. I need to do this. And the guy, the project manager.
So was that before Burning Man or after?
That was way, way after.
Okay.
So, this is something that I had thought about would be cool to do. I had no idea, and I didn't go after this job. When we got towards the end of the job, the school remodel, Bill came to me and, quietly asked me if I wanted to come do art for a living and run his studio. And
that's very cool.
I played it off like I didn't want to for a little while, and then I let him know that I did, But yeah, I would definitely give him the majority of the credit for everything that we've got going on right now.
So you mentioned Alaska. So your background, you have this kind of interesting background where you did this dangerous thing when you were a kid in Alaska. And tell us a little bit about that. And it doesn't really relate to the art, but it's really fascinating. And
well, that
sustainability.
I grew up. I guess that starts where I'm from too. I grew up in Seattle, so being a pretty much poor kid in Seattle, that was the only way that we saw to go get a car, and because everyone leaves from Seattle to go to Alaska. So my dad was also a fisherman too, so that got me in a good boat. And yeah, I fished out of the Bering Sea out of Dutch Harbor for 8 years, and then I got a job on a smaller boat out in the Gulf of Alaska, more in the springtime and stuff, doing halibut and black cod. Always longlining for cod in the Bering Sea and black cod and halibut in the Gulf. It was a great experience, and one cool thing about fishing in Alaska is that you always kind of have that. And so it allowed me to kind of have a free spirit and do what I want to do in the off season. I lived in Maui for a long time and just kind of fished up there and would cruise Maui, and I think that's where
So
my
how long did you do
construction
the
started,
fishing
was in Maui.
thing? How long was the fishing thing then?
Like per year, I would go about
Or like
6.
you did it for 10 years?
12
or
years in
12 years,
Alaska.
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So those extreme fishing shows we see, you were one of those guys.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah. I don't really watch those shows. They make me want to go fish.
Well, we could do a whole show on sustainability and fishing, but that's for another show. I have a
Sure.
cousin who's a scientist in Seattle, and they moved up there for her husband to go to UW for his PhD. I remember going up there about, I don't know, 94, and they were the law was just coming in, or it hadn't come in yet, to know where the fish come from, because a lot of the fishermen and the people who cut the fish in Seattle were losing their jobs, because what was happening is they were putting stuff on the boat, shipping it to China, processing it,
Right.
refreezing it, putting it back.
Sending it right back here.
So it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, your fish has gone all the way there to be processed, and so all these people were losing their jobs. So my cousin was very particular about where was this fish, processed and what have you when we were going to different places. So that's another whole show for another day. But
Yeah, there's a lot of information on that one.
yeah, that's a lot of information.
So I did longline on the sustainability note, and that's more targeted. We catch mostly just fish that we're trying to catch instead of using huge nets and dragging through the hole. So enough about fishing, but it is definitely a big part of my heart, and it's all over my body, and I love the ocean and everything to do with it, and that's it.
So what got you guys started in this again? You talked a little bit about Bill Gould. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? And I have actually on my poster over here, it's a playa flower that another artist did. And I know Bill Gould did a couple playa flowers for Burning Man that had the fire spitting out of them. And talk to us a little bit about that and your start in the art world then.
Do you want me
Well,
to?
Yeah.
I've actually could talk about that because I've lugged around a lot of Bill's very heavy playa flowers and concrete balls. It was great working with Bill because, and everyone who works in his architecture firm as well, he really pushes them to do a lot more than you ever thought you were capable of maybe sometimes, I think I'm capable of anything, but I think sometimes you get challenged in it and it helps you rise to the kind of the occasion. At this point, I'm not afraid of anything. But that was the first place I ever did any 30-foot tall art that's still standing. And
Where's it standing?
we have some. Well, the first thing I did with him was a cross at a church, at the Holy Spirit Church down South San Jose. And,
Didn't you do the gates too in Mountain View that you guys brought kids in to help you with the design or something?
No, I think that was before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the hanging leaf thing, I think, at a school, wasn't it?
It's a bunch of different objects that kids,
They
they went
cut
into
'em,
school
they
and
drew
they
'em,
said,
and they plowed some out.
what do you see on the shoreline here? And then it was all these different little figures. You did some gates though, right? You did some type of gates.
Yeah, for sure. Down on between second and third, and just up from.
By Ziantos Market or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, those gates are amazing.
Yeah, they are amazing. I remember seeing them at the open studio one year.
Again, that was one of those things where we used so many different elements and steel and glass, and it's fun to just mix all those medias and figuring out problem solving and how it's all going to go together.
It was a huge project.
So how did you get started in the art then? You want to go a little deeper into that? And
again, just going back to having a background in the art, going to college for it, and just always being curious on how things are made and putting things together, and continuing that through after college, trying to make sure I had a studio to work in. Even if I wasn't bringing out a bunch of work, I was still able to keep that going on.
Now, I remember when we met, you had a fire pit in Sunset Magazines.
Yes. Yep.
One of their House of Innovation,
Yeah, my cousin was selected to design the Idea House at the Sunset Celebration Weekend and wanted me to do a fire pit for the deck. So that was huge. They loved that at Sunset, and so I was able to get in the magazine because of that, and it brought a bunch of work afterwards as well. And at that point, I was working in the back of somebody else's shop. And prior to that, I was working for Bill Gold as well. And then I was doing contract work with him after that. And that's where Dominic and I met, was working for Bill. And so, yeah, we owe that man much kudos for bringing us together.
So you guys have done hundreds of jobs, and I think we're going to pull up some photos now of some of those, couple of those jobs.